everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you guys my absolute favorite books of 2019. This was a really hard video for me to plan for because it was really difficult for me to narrow down my absolute favorites. So unfortunately I wasn't able to narrow down to just 10 books. So I have a feeling that this video is going to be pretty long. So I would pause this video, go get a snack, and come back and just sit back and relax. So the majority of books that I have to talk about today are young adult. So I thought I would talk about those first, and then I have 4 adult books that I want to discuss as well. So the first 2 books are a part of a companion YA romance contemporary series by an author that I discovered this year who has become probably my absolute favorite young adult author, and that is Brigid Kemmerer. I read the first 2 books in her Letters to the Lost companion series. So the first book is Letters to the Lost and the second book is More Than We Can Tell. I will talk about Letters to the Lost first. So this centers around Juliet and Declan, and basically Juliet goes to this local cemetery pretty much every day and is writing letters to her mother who had passed away, I think some months before, and Declan is doing community service at the cemetery, and so he ends up reading one of these letters that she wrote to her mother and responds to it, and that's kind of how their relationship starts. This is definitely a very angsty YA romance. Declan has a very dark past and Juliet is dealing with this grief from her mother passing away, and so that's kind of what starts to bond them together, and I just loved seeing the development of the relationship between these 2 characters. There's just something about Brigid Kemmerer's writing style that just really works for me personally. Even though this is like a 400-page book, I read this in like a day or 2 days. And then with More Than We Can Tell, this is the second book in this companion series. This centers around Rev, who is Declan's best friend from Letters to the Lost, and this is his romance with a girl named Emma who is really into designing video games because her father is a game designer and she wants to be one as well. And so she's kind of dealing with like some trolls in the game community, and Rev also has a really dark past. I think this tends to be a theme with Brigid Kemmerer's books. And once again, I just loved seeing the development of the relationship between these 2 characters. Rev is also a character that I would die for, honestly. Like, if he was real and if he loved me the way that he loves Emma in this, oh man, he is just like a sweet cinnamon roll with a really dark past, and I love him so much. So yeah, I cannot recommend these 2 books enough if you are just looking for a really amazing, you know, YA contemporary romance series. The next book I want to discuss is another YA contemporary that is definitely really hard-hitting and completely snatched my wig this past year. I read it during the contemporary-a-thon that was going on in September. I will link my reading vlog for that up above, and that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book took me entirely too long to actually get to, but I'm so glad that I finally read it this year, and I knew that I couldn't talk about my favorite books of the year without including this one. If you don't know what this is about, this is following a teenage girl named Star, and she is the only witness to seeing her best friend Khalil get murdered by a white police officer, and so the whole story centers around that and trying to get justice for Khalil. I loved seeing all of the different relationships that Star has with her family members, and she also has a boyfriend who happens to be white, and she goes to this really prestigious school that is predominantly white. So it was just really interesting to see her react with all of these different people in her life. And yeah, this book is absolutely incredible. I can't see anyone reading this and giving it less than 5 stars because it's just that well done. And also just the spectrum of subjects that are brought up in this book, it's just so amazing. This is just definitely a book that will make you think about the world and the country that we live in, and I just cannot wait to read more of Angie Thomas's works in the future because I can already tell that she is just such a talented writer. My next favorite book is Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I actually just talked about this in my end of December wrap up, so I will link that up in the cards above. But this is the third and final book in the Renegades trilogy, and this is definitely my favorite book of the entire series. Now, I know that some people will disagree with me on that sentiment because, and I can totally understand this, some people didn't love the direction that some of the characters were going in and basically how the series kind of ended overall, but for me, it worked so well. I also had like an initial reaction to finishing this book in my Christmas reading vlog, so I will also link that up above. And you can see in that video that I was just so shook and just so heartbroken and happy and sad that I couldn't even express my thoughts into words for you guys. I just love when books can make you feel that way and make you react in such a strong way. And while I was a little bit disappointed with Arch Enemies, which was the second installment of this trilogy, I definitely think that Supernova made up for that book and just went above and beyond. And I don't know, it just concluded the series in such a perfect way for me personally, and I just cannot wait to see what Marissa Meyer comes out with next. Next is a YA science fiction series that completely just blew me away this year, and that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I am specifically putting Illuminae on this list and not Gemina because even though I loved Gemina so much, and I think that that book might even be a little bit better than Illuminae, but for me, Illuminae is just, I don't know, like, because I didn't know what to expect going into this book, it just completely shocked me and blew me away, and there were just so many plot twists happening in this book that I weren't expecting to happen. So going into Gemina, I kind of knew what kind of things to expect, so it didn't shock me as much. But because I was just so shocked with this installment, I had to include this specific book on this list. So for those of you guys that don't know what this is about, this centers around Katie and Ezra, and they are on this ice planet and they get attacked by this evil corporation called Baytech, and so they all have to flee via, I think, these 3 spaceships, and things immediately start going wrong. For those of you guys that don't know much about the series, it is told in a multimedia aspect, and so we have transcriptions of surveillance footage and transcriptions of IM messages and things like that. This is also definitely a series that I think you need to read the physical book while you simultaneously listen to the audiobook, because there are details in both that really just add to your reading experience. And I could talk about this book and this series forever, but please just go read these books if you haven't yet. The next book I want to talk about is a fairy tale retelling by Bridget Kemmerer that totally just took my breath away, and that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's basically about this girl named Harper who does have cerebral palsy. First of all, I loved the CP representation in this. Basically at the very beginning of the book, she ends up being taken by this man to this fantasy world called Emberfall, and she meets this guy named Prince Ren, and he is essentially cursed to relive the autumn of his 18th year over and over and over again unless he can find a woman to fall in love with him. So that is where the Beauty and the Beast retelling comes into play. Now, I will definitely admit that this is probably not the most original retelling out there, but what really sold this for me was, once again, Bridget Kemmerer's writing style just really does something for me, and I just had such an enjoyable reading experience with this, even though this is not a very like fast-paced book by any means. I think it's almost a 500-page book, and there are some points where things are moving pretty slowly, but I just enjoyed my reading experience so much. Also, the characters are amazing. We've got our 3 main characters of Harper, and then Prince Ren and Gray, who is Prince Ren's captain of the guard. I just loved the dynamic between the 3 of them, and this really just turned into such a beautiful story, and I'm just really interested to see where the series is gonna go. Basically, the second book, which is called A Heart So Fierce and Broken, is actually coming out in a few days, and you can bet your butt that I pre-ordered it, so I will be getting it in the mail soon. And yeah, I can't recommend this enough. I know that quite a few people didn't love this as much as I did, but if you trust my recommendations, I would say definitely check this out for yourself. Okay, the next 2 books that I want to talk about are a part of a series, and I love both of these books so much. much that I just wasn't able to narrow down to just one. So that is going to be The Diviners and then Before the Devil Breaks You, both by Libba Bray. So this is specifically book 1 of the Diviners series, and then Before the Devil Breaks You is book 3. It was really hard for me to decide which one to put on this list because I love them so much for different reasons. So this one I loved because there is a lighthearted nature to it. There are, you know, party scenes, and I loved seeing how fun and refreshing Evie O'Neill as a character is. She is our main character of this series. And I think my reading experience with this book is similar to Illuminae in that, you know, this is the first book of the series. I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and so I was just so taken aback by how incredible Libba Bray's writing is and the characters and the story and all of that, that this definitely had to be on this list. Now, in the case of Before the Devil Breaks You, this one I had to include on this list because in this installment we finally got all of the characters, you know, banding together and fighting the good fight against the King of Crows. And so many insane things happen, especially in the second half of this installment. But yeah, I really couldn't decide between the two. They are both incredible books. Layer of Dreams is also another amazing book. That is the second installment in the series. But for me, it didn't quite measure up to these two installments. So I didn't really tell you guys what this is about because I assume pretty much all of you know, but this is a paranormal series that's set in the 1920s. This first installment basically centers around Evie O'Neill. She moves to New York to live with her uncle, and then there is this ghost named Naughty John who is sacrificing people to the devil, and so that is the main plot point in this book. But after that, the plot quickly moves to other villains and other things to take care of. Say that I'm excited about The King of Crows, which is the 4th and final book in this series, would be an understatement. That is coming out in February, and I definitely pre-ordered it. I actually am probably going to go ahead and pre-order the audiobook as well, because with this series, I just feel like there's no other way to take in this story than with the audiobooks, because I've talked about this a lot, but January Lavoie is the best audiobook narrator that I have ever listened to. So if you are interested in these books, definitely check out the audiobooks. Okay, I have one final YA book to talk about, and that is going to be my favorite book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. This is a series that I read the entirety of this past year, and this installment in particular really just blew me away. I feel like I'm saying the same things over and over again about all of these books because they are my favorites of the year. So obviously all of these books blew me away. But yeah, so that book is going to be Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 4th installment in the Throne of Glass series, and I feel like I'm not alone in saying that this is my favorite book of the series. I know a lot of people feel the same way, and I love this installment so much because Selena, who is our main character, you know, she's really coming into her own in this installment especially, and all of these characters from different plot points are finally coming together. The last part of this book, so like the climax, like the final battle, all of that completely blew me away and left me feeling quite shocked. I'm gonna link my reading vlog for this book specifically in the cards above, because you will see at the end of that vlog that I literally can't even express to you how much I love that book. Like, I was tearing up, crying and trying not to, and I just had such a strong and visceral reaction to this book, just like with Supernova by Marissa Meyer. This is definitely a series that holds such a special place in my heart. I guess I should explain to you guys what this is about. So those of you that may not know, this is about Selena Sardathian, who is an assassin, and in the first book she competes in this competition to be the king's champion and to be the king's assassin, and the plot goes way far above that after the first book. But yeah, this was my absolute favorite installment of the series. I feel like from start to finish the pacing is so well done. I can't say that about every book in this series. I just highly recommend this whole series, but this installment in particular is just incredible. Okay guys, I have 4 adult novels to talk about. 3 of them are adult romances and 1, I guess, is more just fiction. The first book I want to talk about is my absolute favorite historical romance of the year, and that is going to be The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This is actually the very first book of hers that I have ever read, read, and to say that I loved it is quite the understatement. So this story centers around Emma, who is a seamstress, and the Duke of Ashbury, who is known as Ash, and she basically shows up to his house randomly wearing this wedding dress that she made for the woman that he was supposed to marry, but that woman left him because he now has like scars all over his face and his body. That is basically the plot of this, and first of all, I love the marriage of convenience trope that we have going on in this. I love the two characters as well as the side characters, and just seeing their relationship develop from this marriage of convenience to actual love. And Tessa Dare's writing style is also just something that really meshes well with me personally, and I just cannot wait to read all the other books in the series. This is the first book in the Girl Meets Duke series. I do plan on reading The Governess Game, which is book 2, very, very soon. And if you are looking for a historical romance author to start with, I would say definitely start with Tessa Dare, because in my opinion, she is just the best. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I absolutely love this romance. This is essentially kind of an enemies to lover, but more like an annoyed to lovers romance about this guy named Simon and this girl named Emily. I forgot her name for a second. And basically she moves to this small town to help take care of her sister, who was in a really bad car accident, and ends up kind of taking care of her niece a little bit as well. And so her niece wants to participate in this Renaissance fair, but she needs to have a chaperone with her, and so Emily gets roped into being in this Renaissance fair as well. And then this guy Simon basically runs the whole Renaissance fair, and in real life they are definitely annoyed with each other and they do not get along at all. But once they are at the Renaissance fair, Simon becomes this pirate and Emily becomes like a tavern wench, and their banter is just everything. I loved this so much, the whole Renaissance fair atmosphere, and really the last couple of chapters was what really sold it for me personally and made me have to give this a 5-star rating. I wholeheartedly recommend this book. I'm also really excited because this is going to become a companion series. The second book, called Well Played, I think is coming out this coming fall in 2020, which is so exciting. So yeah, if you're just looking for a really cute contemporary adult romance, look no further than Well Met. Okay guys, we have just 2 books to talk about, and this next one was my absolute favorite romance of 2019, and that is going to be The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And this is a romance about this woman named Stella who has autism spectrum disorder, and it's kind of like a reverse Pretty Woman, because she decides to hire a male escort to kind of help her learn about all things love and sex related, because her parents are basically pressuring her to find a man to marry and to have kids. And she is like a mathematician. She's really into like algorithms and things like that. So she's always been very much like career oriented and has always completely ignored romance and all of that. And so she has no idea what she's doing. And so she enlists the help of this guy named Michael, who's also on the cover with her. And oh man, I loved this so much. Helen Huang has quickly become one of my all-time favorite romance authors, and she's only come out with 2 books. This is an Own Voices novel, so the autism representation in this was just so well done and authentic. And oh man, Stella has become one of my favorite literary characters of all time. I love her so much. She's also one of the most relatable characters for me personally, just because I'm also someone that is very career oriented and hasn't given much thought about romance or things like that. So I just loved reading her story for that reason as well. Michael is also a really great love interest. I loved seeing their relationship develop over the course of this book, and I just couldn't put it down. I think I finished this in like a day and a half, and I am so excited for the 3rd book in this series to come out. The 2nd book was The Bride Test, which I also read in 2019 and really enjoyed. And then the 3rd book, called The Heart Principle, is coming out in May of this year, I believe. So I will definitely be pre-ordering that. And oh man, this book was just so good. And if you enjoy adult contemporary romances at all and you haven't read this yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? You need to read this book ASAP. All right guys, we have one more book to talk about, And this won't be a surprise to anyone. That is going to be Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is actually the only book on this list that I actually read twice this year. I listened to the audiobook 2 times, once in April and once in November, I believe. And wow, this book is incredible. I've talked about this book so many times on my channel, and so many people have been raving about it this year, and for very good reason. If you somehow have missed all of the hype, this is basically about this fictional band called Daisy Jones and the Six in the 70s, and Daisy Jones is a singer-songwriter, and she ends up collaborating with this band called the Six. And so this is told in like an interview kind of documentary style format, where all of the different, you know, band members and family members of the band members are interviewed and things like that. And so the audiobook is with a full cast of characters. And I think I heard that Taylor Jenkins Reid herself actually casted the audiobook, so that doesn't surprise me at all. I just feel like all of the narrators that she had just fit these characters so perfectly. Listening to the book the second time, I definitely picked up new things. And while I recognize that this book is not the most perfect book out there, it is something that really resonated with me. I still wish that this was a real band, because I really, really, really want to be able to listen to their music. You know, there's lyrics included in this book, and then at the end of the audiobook there's also like an instrumental version of Honeycomb, which is like their most popular song. I'm sure that all of you are sick of hearing all of BookTube talk about this novel at this point, so yeah, just give it a chance if you haven't yet. Definitely go the audiobook route. I think trying to just read the physical book is kind of a mistake because of the format that it's told in, and this is definitely going to probably be one of my favorite books of all time, not just 2019. Okay guys, we did it. I talked about all of my favorite books of 2019. I made it through, and future me is probably hating me right now because I'm sure this is going to take a million years to edit, but I sincerely hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really had a wonderful reading year, and you know, since it was so difficult for me to narrow down my favorites, that just goes to show that I read so many incredible books this year. So I'm definitely looking forward to my 2020 reading year and all of that. That being said, I hope that you guys would consider liking and subscribing, and I thank you in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!